Start by flipping video games on Craigslist as a side hustle and end up building a multi-million-dollar phone repair empire, dropping out of college along the way because the business itself became a better education than any classroom. That's genuinely how one founder's story actually unfolded. Today we're breaking down exactly how a phone repair business actually works, using a real founder story and real industry numbers, from someone who built this from literally nothing. Here's how it actually started for one founder named Joe. He didn't set out to build a phone repair company at all. He started by buying a bunch of Nintendo merchandise off Craigslist just to resell it for a small profit. That led to buying more electronics he could flip for cash, and before long, his phone was constantly buzzing with payment notifications from a business he'd basically stumbled into. Within 2 years, he'd made enough to quit his day job entirely. He dropped out of college too, because he realized the real-world experience of buying, fixing, and reselling consumer electronics was teaching him things no classroom ever could. Here's what makes this specific business genuinely accessible in a way most other businesses simply aren't. Starting as a mobile, home-based repair operation, startup costs typically range from just $2,400 to $6,700, covering a website, repair tools, and training. That's it. No storefront, no employees, no massive inventory. You can genuinely start this from your kitchen table with a basic toolkit and a handful of replacement parts. Here's how the actual money breaks down once someone gets moving. In your first year or two, running this as a mobile repair service, doing just 3 repairs a day, 5 days a week, can realistically bring in about $58,000 in annual revenue. And here's the number that makes this business genuinely stand out compared to almost anything else. Profit margins here regularly run around 90%. That means nearly $53,000 of that $58,000 in revenue is pure profit because your actual costs, mainly replacement parts, stay remarkably low compared to what customers are willing to pay for a fast, convenient fix. Here's why those margins stay so favorable. The average phone repair costs somewhere between $50 and $100, averaging around $75 per job. A cracked screen, a replaced battery, a damaged charging port. These are typically quick fixes, often completed within 30 to 60 minutes once you know what you're doing, using parts that cost a fraction of what the customer pays for the finished repair. Here's what happens once this scales beyond one person working solo. Average monthly revenue for an established cell phone repair shop sits around $24,000, with well-established high-traffic locations pulling in $50,000 or more monthly. Some of the highest-performing operations, tracked across real industry data, have grown toward $288,000 in revenue by continuously optimizing every part of the business rather than simply hoping foot traffic increases on its own. And at the largest end of this industry, high-performing shops doing 40 visits a day have generated as much as $18 million in EBITDA by their 5th year, with owners typically earning combined salary and profit distributions somewhere between $109,000 and $250,000 annually along the way. Here's a detail worth understanding about how quickly this business can pay for itself. Most well-planned phone repair operations reach monthly profitability, meaning revenue exceeding all costs within just 3 to 6 months. Because startup costs are so low and margins are so high, this is genuinely one of the fastest payback periods you'll find in small business ownership, especially compared to businesses requiring large upfront inventory or expensive equipment. Here's the part that actually separates founders who build something substantial from the ones who quietly struggle. It's rarely just about learning to fix phones, even though that skill obviously matters. Location provides a real advantage for walk-in volume, but it's genuinely not a requirement anymore. Some of the highest revenue repair businesses today operate from secondary, lower-cost locations and compensate with a strong Google business profile, targeted local advertising, and simply being consistently responsive to customer inquiries. Location is an advantage. It's not a prerequisite for building something real. Here's an honest reality check worth understanding before jumping into this, because most content on this topic skips straight to exciting revenue numbers without mentioning the actual spread of outcomes. Real industry data shows genuinely wide variation. A solo kiosk operator might bring in around $1,200 a month, while an established high street shop pulls in $25,000, and a multi-location operation clears well past $50,000. The honest truth is that plenty of repair shop owners can quote you their monthly revenue with total confidence, but genuinely don't know what they actually kept after costs. Revenue looks impressive on paper. Profit is what actually determines whether the business is working. Here's a mistake worth naming directly, because it quietly determines whether those margins we talked about earlier actually hold up in practice. A well-managed phone repair shop typically nets a profit margin somewhere between 15 and 30% of total revenue once real operating costs are factored in. not the 90% figure that applies specifically to lean, mobile, home-based operations with minimal overhead. The gap between those two numbers comes down to rent, staff wages, and inventory management. Founders who track their actual costs carefully, instead of just watching money come in, are the ones who protect their margins as the business grows and overhead increases. Here's why the timing on this particular business happens to be genuinely favorable right now. The phone repair market is valued at roughly $4 billion, and increasing right-to-repair legislation is making it easier for independent repair shops to legally operate on a wider range of devices than ever before, without manufacturers blocking access to parts and repair information the way they sometimes have in the past. That regulatory shift is opening up more device categories, more parts availability, and more legitimate opportunity for independent operators specifically. So here's the actual takeaway. A phone repair business isn't a business that requires a storefront, a large team, or tens of thousands of dollars in starting capital. It requires a modest toolkit, real repair skill you can learn through structured training, and a genuine focus on tracking your actual profit, not just your revenue, as the business grows. The founder behind the real example we walked through today didn't start with a business plan for phone repair at all. He started flipping Nintendo merchandise on Craigslist, followed the momentum of what was actually working, and built an entire multi-million-dollar business out of an opportunity most people would have scrolled straight past. Before you go, I'm curious about one thing specifically. Have you ever gotten your own phone screen or battery repaired, and did you go to a shop or try fixing it yourself? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and I'd genuinely love to know.